Welcome to Not Entirely Unlike Tea with Christine Collins. Hey there, it's Christine Collins, and today we are talking about something that some of you may relate to if you have ever been in a state of upset or anxiety where someone has tried to encourage you to focus on your breathing or has tried to teach you breathing exercises at a time when you were feeling already kind of escalated and anxious. And you consequently had an experience of trying to focus on your breathing in order to calm down and only ended up feeling even more anxious. And then experiencing feeling like there's something wrong with you because you weren't able to do the breathing exercise properly or because it actually increased your anxiety. There's actually some fascinating neuroscience behind why this can happen to some of us, and it may not necessarily be for everybody that has this type of experience. But for some people who experience a lot of anxiety, focusing on their breathing can actually sometimes make things more challenging. It's a well-documented phenomenon that is rarely talked about when you are in a state of anxiety and your nervous system is already activated in a hypervigilant state. Your amygdala, which is your center for alarm and concern and worry and fear, is scanning around for threats. And when you suddenly start to pay very intense focus to an automatic process like breathing, your brain sometimes interprets this as, oh no, there must be something wrong with my breathing, and it feels like a threat. This can happen when we focus on any type of automated process, even blinking or a heartbeat, and breathing is certainly in that category. And you suddenly become hyper aware of something that normally would just happen automatically, and it begins to feel weird and even forced. So what's happening in the brain? We have an ability to sense internal bodily signals. It's interoception. And some people have naturally heightened sense for this, which means that they're already very aware of things like their heart rate, their breathing, and other types of internal sensations. And for those people, breathing exercises can actually cause relaxation-induced anxiety, where their nervous system is kind of getting the message like, we're already tracking all this stuff, and now we're going to track it even more closely, and it begins to feel overwhelming. There's also an intricate balance of cognitive load in moments when you are experiencing heightened anxiety, worry, or upset. When we feel anxious or worried, the prefrontal cortex, which is the more logical thinking part of the brain, can sometimes go offline and other times can work overtime. And when we add a mental task of focusing on breaths and trying to count them and follow a specific pattern, sometimes that can actually increase that cognitive burden instead of reducing it. So at the very moment when your amygdala is hyperactive and your prefrontal cortex is compromised in some way, we're trying to force ourselves to do something more logically that we don't necessarily have the capacity to do. And we can end up in a state where we're trying to control this automatic process. It becomes sort of an ironic situation where we're deliberately trying not to do something or try not to think of something, and it's impossible to avoid. And so certain scenarios, certain situations, and certain people may be more prone to having this experience. If you have a really high level of anxiety or ADHD or neurodivergent, you may have more of this type of experience with the breathing exercises specifically. And it doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with you. Your nervous system isn't broken. It's just processing information differently. And that just means that we need different tools to manage anxiety, worry, and stress. And I say it really often, but I'll just say it again. There's no one-size-fits-all cookie-cutter formula for supporting someone who is in a distressed state. This is why I really advocate for having a variety of tools at your disposal and not trying to do a cookie cutter one-size-fits-all program for yourself, because we also need different things at different times. And I like knowing that I have options when I'm feeling upset about something, that I can turn to different types of tools to support myself when I need to, because different things work in different scenarios. We have different states of being and things fluctuate. We are dynamic and not static. So if you're finding that focusing on your breathing isn't helping you, You can try some other things like tuning into some more external sensations, like using your sensory data, things that you can see, things that you can touch, things that you can hear, things that you can smell, things that you can taste. So thinking about those things, some people like to try to name a certain amount. So I can see 5 things, I can hear 4 things, I can touch 3 things. So you can play with that and utilizing some of your more external surroundings rather than focusing so heavily on your internal state. And that's particularly true if you are someone who tends to worry that when you experience anxiety and you notice your heart rate increasing and you notice all of the other things that are happening physiologically, that makes you feel more worried or more concerned that something is wrong with you. That's where focusing your attention externally can be particularly helpful. For some people, movement will also be very beneficial. You could take a walk. You could do some gentle stretching. And in my last episode, we talked in more depth about why things like walking and pacing and moving around are so helpful when you are feeling anxious and worried and upset. You can also use cold water on your wrists or your face, which can help to activate your vagus nerve and to calm anxiety through a different pathway. In a different episode, we also talked about things like humming, sighing, and singing. And there are lots of neuroscience reasons why those 3 strategies are especially helpful in this scenario. Humming, sighing, and singing can actually help to regulate your breathing in a way that doesn't force you to focus on how many breaths you're taking or how quickly you're breathing. You're focusing instead on the action or activity of humming, sighing, or singing. You can also do bilateral stimulation, alternating movements like tapping your hands on your thighs that can help to process anxiety through your body's cross-lateral patterns. And other tools like EFT tapping can be profoundly useful when you're in an anxious state. So again, there's no one size fits all. It's nice to have different options for you at your disposal. And if you are interested in having access to some additional tools that you can use on your own, you can check out the show notes where I talk about my Hypno-Pothecary membership that gives you access to round-the-clock 24/7 hypnosis audios, yoga nidra, and EFT tapping videos that can walk you through various different ways of practicing managing your own stress and your nervous system in a way that is customized and healthy for you. I hope you found this to be useful. And until the next time, I wish you the most magical and creative rest of your day. Thanks for listening. This is Christine Collins at transformcreate.com.